Hey, today I am going to be sharing my top lessons that I learned in 2023 during my first full year of business as a coach and how that's shaped my 2024 strategy for my business as well as life and other things. If we haven't met before, my name is Ashley Clayton, and I'm the person behind Iteratology, a brand dedicated to helping female coaches build sustainable businesses that don't burn them out while scaling to six figures and beyond. First, though, I am going to answer the questions for our December Q&A. These are questions that have been either submitted through my clients, have been submitted through Facebook, or through the form that I keep in Airtable. And I'll make sure if you've got a question that you can also leave it in the comments, or you can leave it in the comments, or you can also send me a DM on any of my social media channels. I'll be happy to answer it, and then I'll probably also either circle back to it or bring it up here as well. So let's go ahead and get through that, and then I will be sharing the 7 different lessons that I learned. So our first question is, let me go ahead and put it up here so that way you guys can see it. So the first question I'm going to answer is, I'm good at creating content. So the person that asks is like, they create content, they've got that routine and that habit, which, number one, that's a whole thing to build up. Something I'm working on doing and will be doing in 2024. But the big question is like, we're putting all this effort into creating content. So how do you create content that is actually going to convert your best clients into booking a call with you, investing in your program, whatever that looks like for you? So the key thing is that every piece of content should have one next clear step or call to action. You may have heard this referred to as a CTA. That should be included as you're planning your content. If you're creating new content, like I will be, then one system that I use is I am creating a content database, and I'll share more about that in future videos. But even if it's where you keep your drafts or whatever, have next step as one of the things that maybe is a bullet point at the top. Because if you're creating content, your content should have a goal, and the goal is usually to get them to that next step. And the goal could even, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but content can have more than one goal, but you're creating content for the purpose of getting somebody to interact with you, whether that's downloading a lead magnet, joining the community, booking a call with you, buying a thing, investing in your program. That's the whole purpose of the content we create in our businesses. So if you're new, make sure that you've got this as kind of like a checklist item of, hey, I have one clear step. And I'll kind of get into this in the lessons that I did, as to why one is so important. But if you already have a library of content, say you've got social content, you've been doing a podcast, blog, whatever that looks like for you, focus on the 10% of the content that has the most views. If you've been at this for multiple years, you can go minimum a year back, just because that'll give you some information on maybe the seasonality. If you've got more years than that, if you have the data available, go back as far as you can so you can see what has been the most popular, and then focus just on the top 10% of all of your content to make sure that it's got a relevant CTA and all of that. So understanding how our content performs touches on a subject I know a lot of people will run from screaming, and that is measurement and analytics, because you do have to use data to know how your content is doing, because that data is your audience's side of the conversation or your best client. And I'll get to kind of the difference between audience versus best client in just a little bit. But places that you can look for data are going to be if you've got Google Analytics on your website. Um, I don't know much about podcasting backend services, but I know some of them will probably have some analytics. Um, Email service providers, so like open rates, click through, like those are standard out of the box um, data points that you get with those services. Social media, platform analytics, and depending on the platform, and I think if you're paid on some platforms, you may have access to more data or less data, depending. The key is to have some data to work from, even if it's just in one little area. Just get some data. That's all we care about. You have to start somewhere. Um, and so the whole purpose of measurement when you're thinking about website or content performance is to measure to see how many people that saw your content or are aware of it, that aware, saw, same thing, then took that next step that you had teed up. And so with this information, we can look for patterns and trends. So you can focus on repurposing and resharing what is working well. And I have, actually, I'll go ahead and pull that up and then we'll contact through as soon as I find where my mouse went. So there are different things, when you're analyzing content, and I'm going to use, say, this example here. We've got content A, B, and C, and there is all three of these. The next step that we have outlined is they download my lead magnet. And then D, which lets them skip directly to book that call. So the core thing is that one step only. There's a reason why I'm not saying, hey, download my lead magnet or book a call, because it's like, well, which do they want me to do? It's easier not to do anything, because you'll hear me say this again, a confused mind doesn't buy. And we think that we're doing our best clients a favor by, giving them a choose your own adventure path. There's ways to do that, but when it comes to having the clear path, you always want to make the clear ideal path forward the clearest. Because based on, the people that saw the content, the people that took the next step, you divide the people that took the next step by how many people saw it, and then that's what your content conversion rate is. When you're analyzing, it's saying, okay, out of content A, B, and C, which one of these content pieces is doing the best at getting the conversion? So which one of these has the highest conversion rate? And then from there, you look at, okay, well, are there more topics, or are there specific topics or things that are more effective in getting people to take to the next step? Are you using the right next step for the content that you've created? There's a lot of these different questions that you could ask and kind of go through. But the biggest thing is you want to focus on creating content that's going to address the pain points and desires of your best clients. Because your goal is with your content is to position your coaching package or whatever it is that you're offering as the next step. So you kind of talk through, I'm kind of doing this in today's presentation as well. You'll see that. I feel free to go back and rewatch after this and look through with more of an analyst hat on of like, okay, she talked about this, that when, maybe why did she do that? And at the end, you'll see as I kind of lead into what I want your next step to be. So I kind of chose to use this as an example. You also don't want to assume that they know what you're offering just because they're on your profile or your website. A lot of times, especially if it's a blog post or podcast, They might be in a platform and they haven't visited your website yet. So they don't know that you have this fantastic, transformative coaching program that is the answer to what they're looking for. And so you have to constantly talk about it. You're not bugging people, you're not, you know, annoying them, especially in the realm of social media. Like 1 to 5% of your followers, I think, is the industry standard I remember reading about, that they're seeing your content. So it's a different 1 to 5% usually, depending on what you're talking about, what the algorithm has seen them engage with, and all of that. So that's why you have to keep repeating it. Don't assume that just because they saw your blog post, they went to your services page or saw any of that information. Call it out in the content you're creating. Treat it kind of like its own little capsulated ecosystem, that like this could be the one thing that they see and nothing else. And you want to make it easy for them to become a lead or to book a call with you directly just from that content. They don't have to go through a fancy funnel or any of this other stuff. There's multiple paths to the same, but they're all leading to that same destination. And that's kind of what I've laid out here, where if you're just starting out, and this is something I'm kind of go back to phase one in my mind of things for, is really, okay, I might actually be stage two, but we'll get to that second. But really, it's the end result is I want them to book a call with me so I can have a conversation to get to know, their needs, their pain points, and find out. And yes, this is potentially a sales call, but it's really that call to determine, are they a fit? Are they in a position where they're ready to make the decision, to take the action? Or is this something that, you have a conversation and you realize, oh, they're really invested in strategy Y, and I'm just not about to touch that with a 10-foot pole. You don't make the offer at the end of the call. It's really just, that's the whole point of booking the call, is that's the next thing. And plus, it's also good to have this in as a practice, because this is also, those sales calls also serve as market research, because you're going to get words from your clients' mouths that you can use in your marketing copy and all of that to really focus in and show, hey, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're not telling me. And I know what you think the problem might be, but here's why you've been blocked. And you can really leverage that. And that's why, if you're just starting out, the goal is to really get them on that call, because it's beneficial for you both. They can get some clarity with what their next step should be. Again, everything is leading to that next step, and they're coming to you to prescribe that next step. So you offer them one thing. That'll be a big thing today. And so really and getting back to the best client versus audience dynamic here, a lot of people are like, well, I want to grow my audience. I want to, build an audience. That's cool. Is your purpose to entertain, or is your purpose to get clients? So there may be best clients within your audience. There are also going to be a lot of best client adjacent people in your audience. So while somebody might be in your audience, but they are definitely not your best client, or they could be past clients that have kind of graduated out of the transformation of your current offer, which is a goal. Because, as coaches, we don't want somebody to be like beholden to us forever. We want them to get the results so they can go on and continue to learn and grow and get whatever the impact or result is that you're promoting, helping them get, because then they'll be ready to refer people that they know of that are in that same situation to you. So it's this big kind of ecosystem that is your audience, but your best client is the person that willingly and happily pays the or pays your rate or invests in your programs. In other words, you've had a monetary exchange there that you're happy with and that they're happy with because they got the result. Like, what think about the people that you've enjoyed working with. Look for some of those commonalities. What were some of the words and things that they used? And then kind of use that to create your best client profile. And it really does help if you have a specific name to assign to it. Like I've got mine, and you can bet every time in my brain, I'm like, okay, what would my best client think about this? And I put her name in there. And so when you're creating content, it's like you're creating one on one because when we consume content, it is that one on one interaction. That's why if you're doing reels or things, you're like, hey, everyone. I'm like, no, they're not talking to me. But if it's hi, and I'm speaking like I'm having a conversation one on one to somebody, whether or not, in the back of our minds, we realize, okay, this is a group call or something like that. I'm still speaking to an individual. Like I am speaking to the individual that asked this question, but multiple people get to benefit because a lot of other people I know have this same question. So that is kind of what you want to do to create content that converts. So, kind of bonus to this, ways to think of content like these could be social media posts. I don't deal right now on a bunch of ads, but ad is still technically content because you've got the image, you've got the ad copy that gets them, and it's a much more direct path versus like a blog article that somebody finds on Pinterest or through SEO. Um, your lead magnet I mentioned is a content piece. Your sales pages are content pieces. Even um, emails, but more specifically like the email sequence because it is kind of that journey of steps. Those are all content assets that you have in your business. And um, if you're in your first year, you're building those content assets, which is one of the reasons why it feels so hard. So that's actually my very first one is like why the first full year of business can be so hard. And a large part of it is you're creating your content assets from scratch. So if you can do that in a strategic way, you're only going to set yourself up for a lot more success down the road. So to that end, like here are the different phases of how I kind of think through both content and measuring the effectiveness of that content. Um, because the goal is also you grow into complexity. You start with your first iteration, and you grow into complexity in your business. Because we try to build complicated things out of the gate, stuff will quite frankly crash and burn. You're going to burn out. Your business will crash and burn. It's just not great. So that's why if you're new, focus on creating content. And then if you're like, well, I don't have a lead magnet yet, hey, don't let that stop you. Just get into book the next call because I guarantee you're going to get an idea for what your best client would see as a valuable lead magnet. So, yes, a lead magnet is very important because that helps you build your list, but taking taking the time to create a lead magnet based on client and even non-client questions and feedback, you're going to create a much higher quality. And I think definitely going into 2024, especially in the age where we've got AI, people just you know letting AI kind of write a bunch of content for them will make the quality is going to start to rise to the top because you know in this last year we've seen the explosion of AI content. Most people can be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was written by AI or something like that, just because it doesn't have the deep insights and the quality insights that I know you bring to the table as a coach. So basic, everything, just book a call. And you can do this purely through social if you want. I don't recommend always staying there, but if you're starting out, your main goal is cash flow. So social plus booking a call, you're golden. The second phase is um, kind of building your list. So you've done a lot of those calls. Whether or not you have sold your program is neither here nor there. But through that, you're getting a better shape of what your best client is, and or people that you would really like to work with more. And so you'll know what one mini problem or what one tiny problem that you can solve for them would be that they would consider valuable, and you turn that into a lead magnet. And then, and this is something I haven't done in my own, and I'm going to be doing it as soon as I get um actually, no, I don't need to wait to get my offer itself fully finalized because I already know the big gist of the direction that's going. Um, it's just kind of the more finer detail points that I'm working out. But I know enough about where that's going that I can make, you have the content of the lead magnet that gets them past that one, challenge or their biggest hurdle. And I'm talking like tangible result, not like, oh, we've gone from zero to full website or something like that. Like, not that it's okay, we got our website planning done. So you're set up for success when you're ready to go, shop around to people to build said website. You're ready to engage that. So that's thinking through like the mini transformation is like what's the first starting point, because once you solve that starting point, you know that they're going to have more questions, and you can have the very clear call to action of, hey, book a call with me. And then that's where you can kind of introduce them to the whole methodology, or learn about where they might fit within what you have to offer as a coach. Um, but you'll notice, book a call, book a call, book a call. There's all these, like, all roads lead to that call. That's actually what one of my mentors is always saying. And guess what? She was right. Because I did resist that for a really long time. But you have to have conversations in order to make conversions and sales. Because the more conversations you have, the better your content will be, and it's just going to be this kind of flywheel of success because you're just going to get more momentum with it. Um, so, and then phase three is if you've got a community. For example, I've got a Facebook community that you're probably seeing this in. If you're not watching it live on YouTube. Um, and so you can see where maybe my content A, the better option is to push toward a lead magnet. Or if I had two lead magnets here, content A could have a lead magnet that is around tech. And so, or content A is about uh, technology or websites or something like that. So then I might have a lead magnet that's website planning guide. So it's very topically related versus, content B could be about business planning, which business planning, website planning, that could be fine, but doing a, strategic business foundational planning or some other type of lead magnet could make sense for that. So you can align by topic. Don't start there. You don't have to. I really wanted to. I really did. I'm pulling myself back. Um, because you can just, one lead magnet is really all you need. And then you can kind of evaluate either rotating it out or adding a new one, depending. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm trying to make this very simple. Um, but if you have a community, you can have a post that goes, hey, join our community to keep this discussion going. Versus, you can also have that be your one call to action at the end of a lead magnet. um, versus you can have just book straight to a call. So in a and this is growing into complexity. So in a semi-complex um, environment like this, where you have a digital product, then um, yeah, then depending on the lead magnet, again, this doesn't have to be lead magnet A, you're not offering two options. It's what makes the most sense, because you really think about the customer journey here. Funnels equal customer journeys. That's all they are. Um, People hear funnels, they freak out. Don't worry about it. It is basically this simple as I'm laying it out here. But you always want to have, if you've got different options as you will grow into, you will want to have a mix of calls to action in your content so people can discover those at the surface level and jump into the one that they want or need. But there's also a path to, hey, I joined the community. I don't have this set up, but I could have a regular post or something like that where, hey, your next step is book a call or something like that, or send me a DM. Um, which that's actually something I don't have here, because send me a DM is a totally valid next step. So if you've got social media, especially, you could even do, going back here, social media posts, send me a DM, and then if through that conversation you have, you're like, yeah, I want to get on a phone with this person, then you send them the link to book a call. So again, we're growing into complexity here. And so there's different ways and different journeys that this can take. Now, when you're measuring your conversion rate, you want to focus on behaviors and measurement as you're looking at, okay, I've created content, how is it converting? And so, did they, after viewing the content, did they wind up on a thank you page? Did they complete booking an appointment, if that's what it was? Did they comment the word that you needed to start that DM conversation? Awareness, and different tools are going to call it different things, but at its core is content views. So in terms of, like, I know Instagram, there's like the whole reach and impressions. This one would be, I like to focus on the people. So it's users. So in that context, I need to go back and brush up on my Instagram metrics, full disclosure. It's whichever one is the accounts that saw the post. So I believe that should be reach, versus impressions is how many times was the post visible, regardless of how many users may have seen it multiple times. Please feel free to correct me in the comments or call me out if I have that wrong, but it is focusing on whatever metric discusses the person that's behind that account, that's there. And it can also be page views along the journey. Because if you've got a blog post that leads to an opt-in page that then leads to the thank you page, they haven't really completed that journey until they get to the thank you page. So if your goal is to have this content and have somebody download your CTA, it's really the thank you page you want to measure, as opposed to, hey, they saw my lead magnet. And there, yeah, we can discuss that if you've got further questions, but I will go ahead and move on. So just to kind of recap a shorter version of that answer, now that I've gone really deep. One, clear next step for every piece of content that you plan or that you create. Um, Go back and look at content that you've created, and see what's in your top 10% of, either people viewing it or getting people. Actually, I would start with the views, because then you can go back and add a call to action. And if it's something that you haven't shared in the last 6 months, feel free to reshare it on social with the new added CTA, because then that saves you having to create more content. There you go. Um, and then really the biggest key is knowing what that next action is, because when you know what the next action is, you actually have something to measure against, for that. And remember, you want to focus on creating content for your best client, because the audience will form up around that content anyway. All right, so the next question I've got is, how am I using AI in my business? So let me, yeah, okay. Yeah, no, we're good, because I've got everything pulled up here. All right, so I actually have been leveraging AI in multiple different ways, and there's other tools and things that I'm aware of that have AI components I have not yet played with. Um, and I actually just saw in the group before I went live that Meta is now, saying, "Hey, they have an AI feature or something like that coming, that if you run a Facebook group, you can go ahead and opt into to see what that's going to be like." I have no information on it other than, hey, you can do it, or that it's coming. So take that what it is. But at a high level, there's a couple different types of, no, I'm just gonna go. I'll just kind of run through the tools and then leave with some of those kind of caveats of how I choose to approach AI. Uh, One that I am working on getting fully set up is a product called Searchy. This is the platform I've chosen to be kind of like the back end fulfillment for my coaching services. Because it has, and I'll show you, I'll just pull this up. Let me see, zoom in if it will. All right, there. So essentially, I can sync with my YouTube. I can upload files manually. Um, I can pull them in directly from my Google Drive. And I have this little nifty extension. So if I'm working on something for a client and they're like, "Hey, you know, I had you add testimonials to one of my website pages. I want to know how I can change those out or add new ones." Well, I was able to very quickly go in and, while I was in the client's environment, do a video walkthrough of how to do that, which all of that is content that you create. And so it gives like an AI summary. Um, I haven't yet used this a lot, but you can also, I think, yeah, you should be able to, yeah, I can edit this if I wanted to. So if it's not wholly accurate, because again, AI is not perfect. It's very sophisticated, predictive text and autocorrect kind of mixed together. I'm not going to get super technical there, but again, we all know AI is imperfect. It's a good idea generation tool though. But through here, it has already, given me thumbnails, so I can pull out depending on what it is, because it's analyzed the video. And so I've got Copilot And so I could say, "Hey, write me quotes," or things like that. I haven't really used this one a whole lot, because I've got something else that already did that, that I have a lifetime access to. Um, but it also gives me analytics. This is not to do with AI, but there's, different activities and analysis. But the biggest part is that I can put it in there, it auto transcribes it into a searchable, um, uh, basically, it makes all my videos searchable, so I can take all of my one-on-one calls with my clients and put them in there. And so if they're wanting to, it's like, "Yeah, I know I talked to Ashley back in July about this thing," they can just search that keyword and it will pull it in and get to that exact spot in the conversation. And so it makes it really easy to interact with past content, which is one of the main reasons I chose it. They do have an add on that's called Searchy Wisdom that effectively lets you create a chat bot of yourself. It uses all the content you've put in, and if somebody asks a question, it'll use that and answer like it's you. Um, I'm not to that point yet with my things, but I think that's really because that can help people self-serve a lot more. And one of the reasons I chose this platform. So that's one of the tools I use. The other, and I'm not going to go into all of these different AI tools because I'm also still kind of planning or playing around with them to figure out what my ideal workflow is with them. And that's the thing too, is you're building systems. You have to constantly be kind of refining and tweaking and adjusting things. But so far they've been pretty useful to where, like, if I'm trying to generate post ideas, and then once I get the idea, I have it outline, and then I can write the post and have it, you know, do a draft of an introduction or a conclusion, um, post titles. You can even filter it here with like topic research, SEO meta descriptions. Um, and if you want to reply with a comment or something, it can help you with that as well. You can even have it rewrite paragraphs because sometimes I'll just be like, and here's a bunch of words, and then it's okay, I want you to make this a little more concise or a little more direct. And then, Facebook posts based on the content. Okay, this may become my new email workflow because email replies, all sorts of different things that are there. I E-commerce, so, like, if I'm doing a review type thing, it can kinda help me with an outline or something, and then there's all sorts of different things that you can do that. But there's a lot of different tools in here. It is, there's Rank Math Pro, and then this is another, um, cost on top of that, but I'm finding that AI is shortcutting a lot of the thinking, or it's helping me think through things in a richer manner that I'm getting to where I want it to be quality wise as well a lot faster because it is that outside perspective that is not inside my brain, which doesn't have all of my assumed knowledge that really helps with the content quality that I produce, which it's quality content that's going to get people to engage. And so I've always been a proponent of quality over quantity matters more. So it's quality and consistency that are the two big levers when it comes to content. So that is Rank Math. Of course, a lot of us are now familiar with ChatGPT. I don't just use it for my business. I've got backstory for a character that I am trying to figure out for for a Pathfinder campaign that I'm in. Um, I use it to kind of think through and talk through some of the questions of, offer development. So I've been using a lot to ask questions, have it ask me questions that I then respond to. That's really good, is have it act like an interviewer that's a specific type of expert. And then as it asks you questions, that helps you think through your answers to those. And then you can kind of turn around and have it reorganize those in something that makes it a very easy and adaptable framework or something. So if you're trying to develop a framework, it can help, all sorts of things. But you really have to prime it and feed it well. And what I mean by that is have it act like an interviewer first, and then um, have it kind of organize the thoughts and the things that you've shared through that interview. Um, but I think there's enough content on ChatGPT. I'm not going to get super in depth on this. But yeah, you can use that. And really, it's trust, but oh, okay, don't trust. I don't trust AI, but it's always verify the information. Um, and if it produces something that you're like, yeah, I don't agree with that, guess what? You're responsible for the end content. You don't have to use it. I reorganize or don't use half, well, not half the things, but it's like I don't use a lot of what it comes uh, out with. But it is good if you just need a very rough first draft of something, but you always do want to rewrite it. The next tool is called Cast Magic, and this is something that you can upload video or audio content into. It transcribes it, which lets me export that transcription to use it with my YouTube videos for captions. Because again, accessibility is one of the big values that I hold, and it really annoys me when content doesn't have captions, because that's part of the way that I learn and process is, reading and hearing and seeing it all together. Plus, because those are the three main listening methods outside of just doing it, which that's the whole thing in and of itself. I You're really expanding your ability to reach different people because they can engage with the content in different ways. This is also something that I could take and kind of condense down or repurpose into a actual written post. That's one of the reasons why I do video content, is because I can hit video, written, and audio. Audio is the one I always forget. And I listen to a lot of audio content. Um, but what I like about this is it's not just transcript. Um, it also will do, here's different titles, title ideas. And yes, you're going to see some overlap here because um, TubeBuddy also has title idea generation as well. So it's really what environment am I in? And different tools will generate different things. So if you see one in a different tool that you like better, change it or whatever. But these are some suggested keywords. I don't use this one as much here, but like analytics tracking, okay, that could be something I could look into, because these are something that I could take into an SEO tool like SEMrush and see what the actual data says to determine, okay, yeah, this is optimized, but this is just a good idea of what you're getting. It gives a uh, introduction, timestamps. So as I'm creating my, um, if it's content that I create that's not going to live in my coaching area, I have an alternate way of getting those timestamps that I can then use to create the chapters on the YouTube videos. And then these are, questions that my content answers, key points and bullets. That's really long. You also have it'll pull out quotes. So if you're looking for different things to share on social, it makes it super easy to do that. If you're creating a reel, you can do that. Um, or reel script, which is cool. If you're doing a LinkedIn podcast, newsletter, so I could take this and put it in. It just shortcuts a lot of the work. If I'm doing a tweet, excuse me, okay, yeah, tweet thread or a thread. I guess it's X now. Um, oh, they also have threads, which it's interesting that they do that, but this could also be carousel post or different things. Or it's also recognizing that there's a different environment on Twitter versus X. So this gives me a lot of the social content just by updating it, which again, that's something that as I develop my processes, I can tell a VA or somebody who's like, okay, when you're scheduling my social content, go to this program and create graphics for what it suggests, and it gives them something to where they're not starting, and I know that there's other content. So there's that. The next one is TubeBuddy. It is a YouTube plugin, and I am on the first paid tier of it. And so I can generate titles. This is how I really easily add chapters. To me, it's a lot easier to add chapters using this than something else. And that's another thing too about tech is like what is going to lower your barrier and what's going to make it easy for you to create the content. For me, that biggest tool this year has been AI, which I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. But then it also does, you can tell it which specific keyword that you're targeting, and I can get that from the AI content if I didn't already have one in mind. But being me, I'm generally not going to be creating content if I don't have a keyword in mind. But in this case, this is something that's a little bit more freeform. I'm doing it, so I can have it suggest. It'll also suggest based on the content once you upload a transcription. And so those are the main ways that I do it. They also have some other tools here that is title. I already covered title generator. They also have a thumbnail analyzer. So if you're trying to optimize your thumbnail on YouTube to get views, this gives you an idea of how to do that. They have some other features. I don't use them mainly because I'm not at the tier that those get introduced. But you can also check them out at TubeBuddy. I'll link below again, and I'll provide links to all these different tools. And so let me cover, let's see, other tools that I use that are AI. I'm not going to demo them just because there's a lot, and we don't want to necessarily be here a whole lot because I still have the 7 lessons that I will go through very quickly. But other tools that I use, the WP engine hosting that I'm on, they have AI tools built in to help manage plugins and servers for WordPress and things like that. That a lot sometimes the number one security issue with WordPress sites is usually plugins that aren't updated or base WordPress that's not updated. What this tool does is it runs through a series of automated testing, and the AI analyzes it for any potential issues for updating to whatever the latest version is for that next plugin. And so it will kind of do the testing for you, and then it will go ahead and update the plugin automatically if you're not if it doesn't detect any issues. And I run it on mine, and I haven't had any issues with it, or and it's been really, really easy because that's something I don't manually have to go in and do, which is nice. I mentioned SEMrush. They've got several different AI tools. A lot of SEO tools are coming out with AI, which I'm like, grain of salt on that one. as far as using it to produce SEO friendly content, it can help you, but it's really what you bring to the content that's going to make it stand out and make it be the good user experience. I also use Notion AI, which they did an update to it a couple weeks ago, I think, that or it might have been a month ago, that you can ask it questions, and then based on what information's in your environment, it will actually answer based on that data set, which is really cool. Especially as somebody that I save all sorts of articles, all sorts of like the books I'm reading, the notes from the books I'm reading go into my Notion. So I can use it to kind of get that information. Um, it is a paid a paid feature for Notion though. Canva also has some AI elements. Excuse me, I haven't played with them yet, but I know there's videos out there on those features. Elementor Pro also has some AI built into it that helps with um, building websites faster or getting, copy generated, things like that. Um, and I already covered Meta. So there's a lot of different ways that I use AI in my business. You don't have to use all of them, but it is very much a powerful tool that if you are operating your business, especially by yourself, or you might be yourself and one other person, you can get much more out of it than than if you have to hire like a bunch of people to try to leverage all this stuff. So you can work more efficiently. But the big thing is like know when to shelve the AI and just use your own brain. I use it primarily when I get stuck or if I'm purposely trying to think through something and want that outside perspective to help me think through it better. You have an awesome brain. Please use that first. Um, and don't just copy and paste AI content because people they want to know your vibe, how you talk to your audience. That's what's going to attract your best client, not showing up like everybody else that's just kind of using AI to sort of showcase expertise or something like that. Sorry, that's actually my next point. People can pose as experts thanks to AI for skill-based content or how-to teaching content. So you're going to want to share other content outside of this. That's what's going to help you stand out. So things like that are results you've gotten for yourself or your clients, the frameworks and your methodologies that you work through, different stories that show that deep level of expertise rather than just like here's how to set up Google Analytics or something like that. AI cannot go deep. It doesn't understand, it doesn't have the experience of this is what happens in the real world in this environment. So just really, um, yeah, just the quality of the content matters, and AI can't create quality content in the same way that you can as a human, but it can help you get to quality content faster. So that's the biggest way. And also, sure, getting that content distributed faster. That's the main thing of like, all right, there are all this content. Now I don't know what part of it I need to post on social. Throw it in there, get some ideas, move on in life. All right, let me check the chat. I don't think we have any other questions. Okay, cool. All right, so did I just go through all that and not share the tools? All right, just in case, kind of recap what I use. Searchy, and it will give the summary, it gives chapters, and it's searchable. Those are the main reasons. This is where all my coaching content lives. You've got an array of different AI options with Rank Math, SEO. Again, ChatGPT is just a sounding board, basically. A robot sounding board is what I primarily use it for. Um, Cast Magic lets you um, you upload audio, video content, put it through. It'll give you the transcript that you can then use as subtitles, or to use as the basis for a blog post alongside the audio or video content that you have produced. So if somebody just wants to read, they can. There's also the AI content that gives you titles, different keywords if you want to feed those as options into TubeBuddy, which I showed you, introduction, timestamps. So if it's something that I'm not putting into my coaching platform, it's there. Questions that you can ask your audience to kind of get a conversation going. It's just like the speaker discusses, like you can, again, definitely rephrase this. And it covers, key topics and bullets, pulls out quotes, gives you real script, LinkedIn, podcast stuff, newsletter. Like this is the big one that shortcuts all the social work. Once you've done all the work of creating the content, this will help you extract out and shortcut the time it takes you to create the social content based on that. That's something where you'd be like, hey, I recorded my podcast or my blog. VA, it's in this folder. Take it, upload it to Cast Magic, and then create the different social things based on its suggestions and what you know as a human of how I communicate with my brand and all of that. TubeBuddy, it's also got a title generator. This is a thumbnail analyzer because this is very YouTube specific versus AI content is more general. And then also gives you recommended tags and things based on what you have uploaded or what you've told it. It's still, I did this earlier today, so it's still updating. And that is kind of the full rundown of what I demoed of the AI tools that I talked about, just in case I was a dork and didn't share my screen, because that happens. All right. So, all right. So here are the 7 big lessons that I learned in 2023, which was my first full year of my coaching business, and what how I'm using those lessons and mistakes, because I believe all mistakes are just lessons, because they're only a real mistake or a failure if we don't take something away from them to iterate on and improve. Because you want to have those feedback loops in your business. Everything's feedback, and feedback is, neutral. Feedback can be positive, it can be negative, but really I just treat it as neutral. But why the first year of business is so hard is that even if you're adopting someone else's systems, templates, frameworks, etc., like, you're still creating every system and asset in your business from the ground up, even as you're implementing their, even if you take a template, you usually have to tweak a template to work for you. You have to tweak somebody's system to work with whatever tools you're using or things like that. It's all from the ground up. So even if you've got kind of an outline to follow or a roadmap to follow, they're still putting in the work to implement that roadmap. And the biggest lift of that is the content, because people can't create your content for you, and it actually be effective in getting the best clients that you want to get. Because you also won't know what does or does not work for you until you actually implement different systems and strategies, and even sometimes software, and give them enough time, to usually about 3 to 6 months minimum, to know if they work for you, or are or are effective in attracting your best client. Um, there's also the problem of following so many different um, mentors or I refer to them as bizfluencers, both affectionately and sometimes a little side-eyed. But the thing is if you follow so many different sources of information, you're gonna be hearing of like, well, I should be building my list. Well, I should be creating content. I should have a website. Should have. So you're getting kind of like shoulded all over yourself. And so because everyone is telling you everything that you should be doing in your business and like here are the things you have to have in place to grow, those may be true, but they're not talking about the overall timeline in which they have developed these systems. A lot of times, the people that are social media inspiration or um, online business mentors, and whether that's like through you're just following their content and getting the free content and not necessarily working with them. I don't mean it in that sense, but your online business influences, you're seeing them, 3, 5, 10, 20, etc. years in their business. And so if you're just starting out, like you can't implement everything all at once. And even if you're trying to like, stair step and work multiple projects forward at the same time, like I did this year, like it burns you out and it it's also really stressful because it feels like you have to have it all in order to start building your cash flow. And that really just isn't true. Um, going back to this, if you're just thinking about what you should be doing, like your number one job is to get clients. Um, and to do that, you have to consistently attract them. And so, again, this is very, very simple. It does not have to be complex. If you've got just this in place, you're golden. Because I have if you're in your first year of business, getting clients and creating the content that gets you those clients are like the two most important things you can do. Um, I I would argue an email list builder is also included in that list. Like those are the top three things, but you don't need a website. You don't need to have a full offer suite. You don't need to have um, a lot of these other things that people are telling you that you need. Sometimes it's you get to that point. So knowing where you're headed is important. But if you don't have the the core pieces that make you money in place, which is fulfilling client fulfillment, a way for that client to even book you in the first place, something to attract that client or find that client, it's not going to happen. And for me, I think the biggest struggle has been the content creation, because I don't haven't developed my system around it yet. And so the reality too is consistency doesn't happen without systems, and you have to have clarity and focus on your business foundations in order to set those systems up. And so, one thing I'm going to be doing, especially at the forefront, and I've been doing the last couple of weeks, is setting those strategic business foundations up in my business. So that way I have something solid that as I'm building and focusing on, like that's what's going to keep me grounded. That's what's going to keep me focused as I move on into 2024 and beyond. Because trying to again implement everything bit by bit, but also all at once, instead of really just focusing on those basics, it's going to stress you out and make it that much harder to achieve like positive cash flow in your business. Um, so, number two, excuse me, let me grab a drink. So the second lesson that I took away from 2023 is that, and this is something I've kind of always like known all level, but it really, really hit home this year, is sustainable coaching businesses require strong foundations. And when I'm talking about like a sustainable coaching business, it's one that doesn't burn you out. You know, you are able to spend time with your family and not, you know, neglect time with the people or the things, or doing the things that matter most to you. Um, and in order to do that, you have to know one, your own personal foundations and goal setting, which I'm not going to fully get into here, but I am going to create more content around those things. Um, but ultimately, when it comes to foundations of your business, it is, you know, you're not going to get sales if you don't have an offer that your best client will buy. At the end of the day, no sales, no business. There's not any two ways about that. Um, you can't create your offer if you don't have a clear picture of who your best client is. This starts with identifying your best client slash, some people call this market or niche. Um, but I prefer to think of it like individually as a person, because that one person is representative of a much wider group. And plus, again, it's more, you have more connection when you're talking one on one with a person versus if I'm trying to address a whole group, because I'm not. And really focusing on that one person allows me to develop something that is unique in my marketplace, specifically to serve the transformation my best client is wanting. And it makes it a lot easier to speak to where I know they are now and what they're thinking, feeling, and they're doing because of where they are. And it also lets me look forward and cast that vision of, you know, I know what they want to achieve, I know what they want. And so that lets me create an offer that bridges where they are now to where they want to be. This is very basic marketing positioning 101 type stuff. And that's something that's really easy to say, but I mean, there's a whole process of getting there. But again, that's where all roads leading to that sales conversation is going to shortcut the process for you instead of just trying to guess on it. But again, your offer should bridge where they are now to where they want to be. Your best client wants to know that you've got a system, that you have a clear process that they can follow to get the result that they want. There's a lot of different beliefs in there that they have to have. They have to believe that, one, they even have a problem that you can help solve. Two, they have to believe that that it will work for them, and they have to believe that you're the one that will help them solve the problem. And you have to make sure that you have systems set up for your business administration and use them. So let me pull this up, and this is the last tab over here. Uh, so I think of, you know, systems in terms of like ecosystem, and your business is that organism that um, that you want to thrive. And so, you know, you've got your business foundation. So knowing your ideal client, your offer, your mission, vision, values, all of that, and then your business admin system. So, you know, your finances, your legal, all of that, those things. The marketing is how you get the message out there. Nurturing is how you get them to the point where they do convert, you know, whether it's investing in your program, booking that call, whatever that looks like. And then there's all of the other, like the tech that brings all of that stuff together, um, as well. So that that's kind of what I see as the foundations of your business. You need even just like the basic systems in place. And for me, that's honestly the finances part of it because I don't like doing books. But I mean, you have to if you are a business owner. That's just comes with the territory. So number three is lack of focus that confuses you and your potential clients. Um, when you are starting out, um, and at this point, I've been in business for about a year and a half, and you get one thing that kind of works, and you're seeing what people will buy, what they want, and you're gonna have successes, you're gonna have failures, and so the temptation is like, well, that didn't work. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next thing and try this. But all you're doing is one, if you have a VA or somebody that works for you, you're making it a lot harder on them to do their job well because it's like, okay, great. What are we doing this week? Or how are you going to change your mind? How is she going to change your mind? And suddenly we're doing this. Now we're doing this. And so having the courage to kind of commit to one path is something that I'm taking in 2024. Because the reality is, for every offer that you have, there is one best client for that offer, and and that offer is developed solely around that one best client. Multiple offers actually mean that you're running multiple businesses at the same time. Any wonder why we feel so tired? um, So the goal is to grow into the complexity. You heard me say that earlier. And if it's something that like you just feel you're either at an unsustainable pace or something like this, like really look at how focused you are. And if you feel focused, then there's other things, but like really focusing on um, because if you're confused in your business, you can bet that your team and potential clients are as well if you have a team. Um, And I said it earlier, confused people don't buy and they don't sign up. They're going to move on to the next person who's clear about who they serve, what they do, who they are, what they stand for, how they like to do business, all of that. Um, and being clear is actually something that will help you rise above the noise. Because if everybody just kind of have the same low level conversation, but somebody clearly shouts from across the room, who's going to get noticed? Um, and the other part of that, and what's going to keep you focused, is creating systems to help you document and documenting the decisions that you make. So this includes like documenting your business's mission, vision, and values. And even hanging on to some of the scratch work of how you did that. I have a Notion template that is a business foundations template. I'll include it um, as one of the resources as well, because by having these things documented, um, you work with a contractor and they're like, hey, well, what is your brand, what's your mission, like what are these things that I need to know in order to make sure that the product or project you've paid me for is going to work for your business, because they want to set you up for success, but they don't always know to ask those questions to do that. And so by having all of that there, it's going to keep you focused on the days where things are hard. It's going to help you just getting it out of your head too. Just brains are good for having ideas, not holding them. That I believe is from David Allen from Getting Things Done. Um, and once they're out of your head, you can also work with them a little bit more. So just because you write it out once, especially if you do it digitally like I do, you can adjust, refine, tweak, and all of that. And then that becomes that guiding force and that overall foundation that you do, because that has to be outside your head. If you ever hope to hire or delegate your work in a meaningful manner, because I know I struggle with delegation because I don't want something. I'm like, I have standards. Well, the way you can hold somebody to standard is you have to have it documented, so that way it's out of your head, and you can even share these different things with your audience, because that's where they're going to know what makes you different and what makes you the best choice for them, because people are going to want to connect with the content that's based around your mission, vision, and values. Which again, Doxer didn't happen, which brings me to number 4, which is document all the things. Your first year really is your origin story and brand story and foundation. These are going to be valuable down the road, and if it's something that you haven't really ever thought of or documented before, like take a minute, like do an extra, like, what is your brand origin story, or where did your business come from? How did you become a coach? Where did all of this come from? Because other than like looking back to get motivation for like, hey, this is where I was a year ago, and now I'm here. So a year ago, I had a email list of 13 people. I'm now over 200. And so that's something that has happened in the last year. I have, um, launched some different things. And so seeing those differences actually helps, because it's like I'm proving to myself that I can. And that's why documentation is important, because when you're having a hard mindset moment, you can look back and use it to either help you grow, remind you that you can do the hard things that you might be avoiding in your business, content creation, um, and the results that happen when you push through and when you do the things you've been avoiding. For me, a lot of that has been driving people to sales calls. But yet, that's the one thing I know I need to do to take my business where I need it to go, and to serve the people I know need my help and that I want to help, that are out there. And the reality too is, if you aren't documenting the processes in your business, you cannot delegate or hire them to a VA or a contractor, um, to help you get back to the coaching that you would rather be doing. Um, you're also wasting a lot of brain power and energy pseudo reinventing the wheel every time. Or if it's one of those like, well, I'll just do it because I'm going to be able to do it faster. Well, take that time to go through it. And actually, that reminds me, I'll have to look it up. But I know there's another AI tool out there I haven't played around with, that actually helps you develop the standard operating procedures by just, kind of keeping track of, like, you clicked on this, you did this, to help you create those things. So there's tools that are out there that can help you with this documentation, that aren't necessarily going to add to your workload or level, but sometimes it is worth going through, because when you're writing it down, you're questioning and validating like every step of that process, to see like, oh wow, I don't have to do all these things that I tend to do. I can just jump from here to there. I've even kind of hit on some of those for myself in just this conversation. And with and one thing that'll also make your life a lot easier, this doesn't necessarily have to do with like processes and things, but make it a habit to collect B-roll content that you can use as background for short form content like reels. And when I say B-roll, that's, if I had my phone over here, either, just kind of recording, or even, some of the off to the side where you see people working, or, something like that, people don't have to see, but I can use that as a background. If you're, just out walking around, you can take that. B-roll stuff that, like what I'm doing here, this is talking head style video versus screen share, versus if I was just talking and it was just kind of like this moving scene or something like that with a voiceover, That's the B-roll stuff. So if that's not something you're familiar with, hopefully I've explained it well enough. I would also encourage you to check out, like, YouTube things on that if you want more information on B-roll. I'm learning it myself. But you can also use the B-roll strategically to tell your business story, um, alongside your other content as well. And the part that people also don't like about documenting all the things is part of documenting is measuring and tracking things in your business regularly, because you can't improve what you're not measuring. I believe that's from Measure What Matters. Um, and because the data that you get will help you know where to focus your efforts in the future. Um, and that's just going to allow you to say, hey, I'm dropping like the the one thing that's not working the best, or if you talk about a bunch of different topics, well, what topics maybe aren't getting the exposure? Of course, we'll look at some other things, but it lets you make those informed. I believe in data informed decisions, not data driven, because you can get data that leads down a path that isn't necessarily in the best interest of your best client. Um, and you can use that, but if you're at the end of the day, data should have a seat at the table. It's not at the head of the table. Um, which brings me into my fifth point. So, tough truth. You remember, like, I'm a coach. No, you're a CEO. And so you really have to think and act like one. Um, CEOs use data. So you have, if data is something you've been avoiding, you have to start looking at it. Start with whatever data you might have. And if you have questions about what you're looking at or what you're seeing or how to interpret it, please, like, reach out to me, via DM, share it in our Facebook community. I will be happy to take a look and answer that because data is so important to building a sustainable business that is not going to burn you out. Um, and because a CEO uses data, they don't blindly follow someone else's method or advice without measuring whether or not that method is working for their business, which means that it's working to attract their best client. Because people are saying, like, well, this is the one way that you have to do or should be doing something, or you have to do this or you're not going to grow your business. Like, there's more than one way to grow a business. That's why it's so hard to do, is because everybody's telling you what they think is best, but the data is what informs you of what's working best for your business. What works best for the coach that's saying, yeah, I had a course launch that was six figures. Like, well, are they a business coach and you're a health coach? Is their best client you? Or is their best client the same as your best client? So it's always kind of asking the question of, like, so what's going to work for them is of course going to be different than what works for you. Um, but the important thing is that, CEOs are decision makers. Your pricing is right because you decide it's right. Your offer contains what it does because you're the expert who knows what your best client really needs. That's why they're coming to you for a diagnosis of what the issue is, not just a laundry list of, well, it could be this, we'll go through my program, we'll find out. Like, no, like, you're the coach, you're the expert, lean into that. So decide, commit, and move on. Like, if you have to, set a decide date, which is, I'm somebody that I enjoy research and I do a lot of research. And that's part of my job and part of how I operate. And it's a good thing until it's, oh, I've spent all this time doing research but haven't implemented anything. And so having that cutoff date of, okay, I'm deciding what my offer is by this date. I'm deciding this by this date. And then you make that decision and then you commit and just follow through on it. Because a lot of times the decisions that we make and then we go back on or change, it it really is not giving you a chance to go deep and actually figure out maybe what isn't working in something, or not. Because you really want to review the results that you're getting because of through your decisions and adjust or tweak maybe the tactics as you get more information and feedback specifically from your best clients. The other thing that CEOs do is that they set the vision for their business and then align their strategies, decisions, and actions um, to that vision. And this requires planning and a commitment to actually executing the plan. I'm a chronic planner, not always the best at executing. That is something I'm committing to of deciding and then executing the plan for like 6 months to a year. But during that time, I'm still adjusting the tactics, clarifying messaging, and as I'm maybe getting a clear vision or things, realigning things as I go, but not ever really losing sight of what that end vision of what I want my business to accomplish, what I want my business to accomplish for my personal life, what I want my business to accomplish for my clients. Like those are big things that don't change, but how I go about them can, and that's what you can kind of adjust. And the other big thing is like the vision that you have should be documented as part of your business foundations. So that way I can share it with my best clients. Um, and you can share it with yours because people, your best clients are going to be attracted to the vision that you're painting for them. What you're showing them is possible is what is going to cement that belief of, okay, what she's saying is possible, and how you go about that and the other ways that you connect is, okay, yeah, I believe this will work for me. And an audience will buy into that vision, and that vision's also there for you to keep you motivated and clear on what you're working toward when things get tough. That vision can also, and this is another way you can use AI, is like, here's my vision. What are some, goals or mini milestones or things that I need to do to achieve this vision? So you can kind of brainstorm things that way. But CEOs are decision makers and they set the vision for the company and they use the data. Like that's the big, big piece. And so all this is kind of coalescing into something I'm calling like commit to 1 for 6. And this is kind of a play on a coach by the name of like GD Weber. She's a Christian business coach, and I've been kind of consuming a lot of her content lately. Hers is a bit more simple than this, and is a little bit different, but just the very idea of you've heard me say one, like over and over again. So the idea of committing to 1 for 6, and what I mean by that is it's like you commit to one best client and focusing on them for at least 6 months because it will take you this long to really deeply connect with them, get to know them better than they know themselves, and to keep your best client avatar updated and more effective beyond like just the first draft that you use as your starting point. Every documentation that you have in your business should be living documentation that you revisit and update as you need, um, because that's what's going to keep it in a way that's going to grow with you. Um, and then for that one best client, you're going to commit to focusing on one transformation for that client. Being a coach means that we're taking people from where they are now to where they want to be. And so thinking about like, where does your best client want to be? What is your one transformation or result? And this is usually more of like going from and I'll just take my own health journey currently, being completely sedentary to feeling the strongest that I can be. Like there's a gap there, but and there's any one of a number of ways that I can achieve this goal, whether that's, weight loss, eating healthy, growing my own food, there's a lot of different ways to go there. But I'm focused on the transformation of I'm a couch potato to I know that I'm strong and healthy, and I could probably do a bit more visualization for myself on what that looks like, but just being strong and comfortable in my body. That's the big thing. Um, and then based on the different coaches or different things the different offers that you might have, that would be different ways that you can achieve that one transformation. So you've got your one best client, the one transformation, because they're not trying to fix my whole dang life. They're focused just on that one aspect of it. So for me, that's okay. I'm focusing on one core prospect of, you know, taking somebody that, they've made six figures, but they're kind of running into a wall while they're trying to scale, and they don't really know what's going on, or they're too busy, handling the clients that they haven't been able to get any of the systems or things in place, and they're just getting burnt out, to having a business that is scalable, that doesn't exhaust them, that actually gives them that freedom that they got into coaching in the first place. Um, and again, talking through that a little bit better, but then once you have your transformation, that's where you commit and promoting, and this is going to be the hard part, is one offer to get your best client that transformation for at least 6 months. And for some of you, that could be revamping an offer that you already have and focusing on getting it to work efficiently. Or in the case for me, that's actually coming up with an entirely new one based on the needs that I've seen in the market and in talking to people that are like my best client. And once you've got one best client, one transformation, one offer, you're going to create one powerful lead magnet that naturally sets up your offer as the fast track to getting your best client the results. You can revamp an older one if you've got. For me, it's such a big shift and change that I'm just going to start with new. And that's not to say you can't use what you've already done. That can just become like I can take the lead magnets and the guides that I've done, and that just becomes part of an asset library for the people that are in my coaching program. Because it wasn't something that I promised to be an indefinite free thing. It's just a lead magnet at that point, and you can rotate them in and out. It's your business. You can decide. All right. So with one best client, one transformation, one offer, one lead magnet that sets it up, and so for the lead magnet, you've got your overarching transformation. Within the lead magnet, you're focusing on one problem that could be holding them back in their transformation journey. And then at the end of that lead magnet, there is one clear next step for your client to take once they've finished it. Again, if you're focusing on one-on-one work like I am, that would be book a call. If you are selling a digital product, it would be whatever the most relevant digital product could be. It depends on what your business focus in 2024 is going to be. So once you've got that, you now can pick one main platform that your best client is on and focus on that one platform for optimized content creation for the next 6 to 12 months. The reason why this one is longer is because of the time cycle that, especially if you're creating a blog, and again, SEO can pick up social posts. That's a whole thing nobody talks about. Focus on that for 6 to 12 months, because then you're going to have a lot better data as to what topics, what types of content, and what does the best for your best clients, what's going to convert well. See how this is all going to come in full circle here? And so you can still distribute to other platforms if you want. Those are just bonuses. Like, you're not focused, you're focused on growing on one platform where your best, again, not where your audience is, where your best client is. So for me, I'm evaluating, like, that could be LinkedIn rather than Instagram. I might still do Instagram. I don't know. Again, I have a decision date for that. And so the key thing, though, when you are picking your platform is you want it to have a DM capability, because your goal is to generate conversations, whether that's conversations on a sales call or conversations via DM that may or may not lead to you offering that sales call. But all of that includes focusing on one format. So the format I've decided on is I'm creating video content. The other options are, of course, audio and written. The reason I'm doing video is because I can get the audio and written off of that. And if I decide to repackage those later as podcasts or whatever, I have those assets available to do that. So for your platform, that also includes format, publishing schedule, and generally, like, once a week is where I'm going to start. And commit to the consistency for once a week to my chosen platform for 6 to 12 months. And where I'm going to share my content for free so others can find me. So that does include the social media platform, or I am doing it on a blog as well. So whatever that looks like for you and your business, focus on that. And then once you have kind of that package, the sixth bullet point, so 1 for 6, is you've probably already made investments in either courses, programs, frameworks, something that you might have done and not completed or not seen all the way through. And a lot of times you have to go through a full cycle with something to get that full benefit. And because, as I mentioned before, you're paying attention to, about a course from this person and this person, and there's this and this and this. Like, one of the things I pre-decided for 2024 is I have a list of I have it with 3. So this is a little deviation from, but basically I have 3 people that cover slightly different areas. 2 of them do kind of overlap, but basically, like, those are the 3 voices I am allowing in my space for 2024, so I can tune out anybody else, because the 3 of them are very complementary in what they cover, how they approach things in a way that feels right, and that I know from my own experience of, like, 15 years in tech and marketing, that will work for how I want to do business. So that's, again, why your foundations are important, because how you want to do business and how you show up should dictate everything else. So, committing to, I have one person's methodology that I'm following, and I'm going all the way through it, because, again, investing in courses and not implementing, you don't really get a feel for what works and what doesn't. And so, again, this could mean only choosing to listen to one person's podcast on a topic. So, if that's email marketing, you don't listen to six different email marketing podcasts, you have one. That way, you're not getting that cacophony of strategies and noise from all over, because the goal is to limit the inputs so you can focus on execution and output. And then the final point, and this is where it's kind of come full circle for me, is if you're early in your coaching business, like I am, so I'm talking like first 3 years, and that's not to say you can add different things beyond that, but like definitely your first 3 years, you cannot skip one on one as a coach. I did this. I tried this. And so, I've done workshops, so digital products, um, and some of it is my own implementation of things, I'll be honest. That like I could have my Google Analytics workshop that is a digital product and it's out there. Um, and I have had it, but I've kind of pulled everything back specifically because I want to be the example to show you like this is what the power of really leaning into what can be extremely scary things, because the whole that old adage of, well, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, the reality too is like I still have a full-time job, I have a family, I have a farm. Oops, and I'm knocking these over. um, and so I have to, for my own sanity, for my marriage, for everything, and so focus on the one thing, because I don't have the time necessarily to go beyond and try to fill all those little gaps in my value ladder and all the other stuff. Um, I will get there, but like my number one job as the CEO of Iteratology is to attain and maintain a positive cash flow in my business without burning myself out. And so the most effective way that, if you're in the same stage that I am, it or the same kind of like your um, earlier years of business, the best way to do this is through one-on-one work. Now, to some of you that are familiar with, like, I'm a class certified business and marketing coach. And for those of you that have been part of that community as well, this is not anything new that you're hearing. This is something I have resisted and fought on for a while. And guess what? She was right. There's a reason why one on one as a coach. Now, if you're some other type of business, like I'm focused on coaches here. Um, the most effective way to do that is through one on one, because of the higher price point that you can charge that will make the cash flow piece of it a lot easier. Um, and it takes the oh, those are some of the kind of additional points. So essentially, cash flow is the main reason, because that fulfills my responsibility as a CEO of making sure that my business is an asset rather than an expensive hobby. Um, and it's also sustainable over the long term. Because especially if you are a coach, you've probably invested in coaching programs and you're trying to get that return on the investment. I've done that, um, but I also know that for me, I've been scattered in what I've done. So that's why I'm returning to, okay, we're gonna go with the one-on-one. The reason why is through one-on-one work, you're going to really get to know your best clients well. And again, these are the people that are willingly and happily pay your rates. Well, thank you for charging them. You know, are willing to put in the work and implement your recommendations, or in some cases, if you're doing one-on-one coaching and you're helping implement like I do, um, you know, providing you with what you need to do what they need you to do. Um, and that you are able to get the results that you have promised them. And so through one-on-one work, it's in kind of the tech world, to kind of pull back for a second. I've done quality testing, to really try to break things. And so anytime we make like a product change or decision, so say we want to introduce a new feature in a platform or take away one, we're always asking like, what's the blast radius of this decision? So when you're doing the one-on-one work, it gives you that space to really, you know, build out your back end systems, make sure you've got an onboarding system in place. You're able to focus on the content creation, um, and other assets that you can leverage to down the road easily create group programs, courses, and other things that kind of create that passive. I hate that term. I prefer asynchronous income, but um, the income based on what people will buy, not what you think that they're going to find valuable enough to invest in. So you're solving a problem that exists in the market as opposed to here's a thing and now I got to go find a market to sell it to, which happens a lot more than you think, especially in the entrepreneurial and startup spaces. Um, and the other thing is it takes the same amount of time, effort, and energy as it does to sell one-on-one as it would a group program membership. Again, I've done membership stuff. Or any other digital product. Um, and because if you're in your first year and you're creating your content, that's going to help you more because if you're doing one-on-one, you have more bandwidth to create the content based on the questions you're getting in your coaching sessions, and you can really build out your like I have a success path that I have thought through and that I look at, but one of the things that I've struggled with in the membership is and the reason I've had like the founding members rate is because it will I'm creating the content as I go, which there's not a problem with that, but since I'm going to be creating content as I go anyway, I'm shifting back towards focusing on one-on-one specifically so that I can create content that I know is going to help those people because they're getting these are direct questions, as opposed to, hey, I think content would be a good theme for January, and I'll talk about content in my membership. I mean, I'm doing that, but there's if it's content you've got to create anyway, I'm going to be able to leverage those questions, and I'll just need to structure them at that point, um, into it, using Searchy and build a group program through that way when I introduce that. Or I could take something and just offer it as a one-off. It's a lot easier to do that way than it is to try to um, because the thing with coaching is because they're coming to you in a one-on-one capacity as opposed to, oh, well, I've got a course on SEO, I've got a course on Google Analytics. It's like, okay, what are we focused on right now in our engagement? All right. And I know what content I need to create. Or if I already have that content, it's like, okay, watch this video and then I need XYZ from you, or then do XYZ. So just like, the content that converts, every content should always have that clear next step. Your job as a coach is to lay out that roadmap for them. But again, it takes the same amount of time, energy, and effort to sell. And it because again, that higher price point, you are able to get that going well. And if you can sell at a high price point, adding in something that is that next tier down or whatever, you're already going to have an email list and more of that audience that's ready to buy, even if they're not ready to be that best client that is ready to invest in that one-on-one time with you. So that's one of the ways, and it's going to help me scale in the future and can help you scale as well. Um, and so all of this to kind of say is like my 2024 is going to be centered around going back to offering one-on-one fractional CTO slash CMO services. So this is a chief technology officer, chief marketing officer, coaching and services for female coaches that are making six figures or more. So that way they can effectively leverage tech and marketing to scale their businesses while saving time, money, energy, and preventing burnout. And if you're not familiar with what a fractional CTO or CMO, or there's a lot of different like fractional type officers, this is seen a lot more in the startup space. But what it is it's a strategic partnership that's more peer-to-peer versus, you know, taking the time to deeply get to know your business, your goals, and all of that, and then helping take the tech and operations and kind of marketing side systems lift off of you. You would still, create your content, but it's one of those is like, okay, here's your content plan. Go, this is what you need to create this month, and then you go do that. And if you've got a VA, helping build those systems and things that you need to either hire a VA or make your VA more effective. It is not VA services, because the difference between having a peer-to-peer is we can have those high-level strategic discussions versus that's not really an appropriate discussion to have with somebody whose decision that you make might affect their job stability. And so that's where I'm leaning into. I'm still, nailing down what the deliverables for that would be with the details. And if it does sound like something that interests you, or you're curious about it, or just like to, talk through it more, even like I would love to hop on a call with you to learn more about your business and challenges that you're facing as you're trying to scale. Um, Mainly because I'm doing my own market research for this, so that way I can make sure, again, lead by example, that what that offer looks like is something that is going to be beneficial to the people that I know that, my coaching mentor, Anna, she has her husband that handles all like the bulk of all of this for her. Not everybody has that type of person in their business. And so I want to come along and partner with, business coaching business owners that are coaching CEOs that are doing really well. Like maybe you're so busy doing coaching that you haven't had time to really work on your business and systems to get things in a place to where you can scale or bring on more people, or um, just do more of the things that you want to be doing. But again, and I'll include that link as well below, um, which I totally forgot to switch over to. You can't skip one-on-one as a coach. But if you are in your coaching business and you're starting out, or even if you've done like I did, I've done memberships and things like that, and memberships and workshops, and you've been trying to chase that passive, it may be time to go back to that one-on-one to like recenter yourself and you know get that part of your business going well, and then you can reevaluate your other things. But that is all that I've got. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a awesome new year. I would love to hear your plans. Please share uh, plans and goals. So please share them in the Facebook group. And as always, if there are any questions, comments are welcome. And I hope you have a great day.